Hi, I can explain. So, when I did my last episode over a year ago, I think, my life was nothing like it is now. And truthfully, there has been so much happening that there's not enough time for me to get into the details. But here's a few of the highlights of what I've been up to over the last year and a half or so. I got a job. I lost 65 pounds. I moved twice. Started having some problems with my normal gear, so that's why I'm kind of doing this weird thing, and I'm going to be using these headphones instead of the other ones. And I also don't have my good mic working right now, so sorry about that. And I started working pretty closely with a church up here in North Denver. It's called Northern Hills Church, and you can find the YouTube channel here, roundabout. And not only have I been performing there, but I've also been doing a lot of the audio post-production for any of their pre-recorded services and stuff like that, which began in earnest because of COVID. Yeah, that's already enough as it is, but truly, that is just scratching the iceberg of everything I've been through. So yeah, I did not mean for this show to just kind of vanish into thin air, so I'm sorry for those that felt like I was leaving you hanging. But the reason I'm posting a new episode now, even though I'm not ready for it technologically or anything, is because one of the other things I've been up to is I've been teaching music, and I have one student, and it turns out he really liked the show and was kind of bummed when I stopped filming it. And since I see him every week, he asked me last week if I would film another episode just for him. So, Asher, this one's for you. I do have some backlogged requests I could take a look at for this episode, but honestly, partly because it's been so long and partly because I don't know if this is just going to be a one-off, I kind of want to do something I know I'm going to enjoy and one that I know a lot about. And finally, one that will be known by a lot of people, even if they haven't heard the song. I at least want the artist to be really well known. So I figured we should take a look at one of the most interesting songs from my favorite band of all time. So today we're going to take a look at Waiting for the End by Linkin Park. The video was posted to YouTube on October 8 in 2010, so that was 10 and a half years ago. And as of recording this video, the number of views it has just on YouTube, it has over 201 million views. So first, a little bit of history for those who aren't familiar with Linkin Park. After their second album called Meteora, they really started experimenting with their sound. They had done nu metal for the first two albums, Hybrid Theory and Meteora. Their third album, Minutes to Midnight, went kind of more in a alternative rock direction, with almost no hip-hop influences on it, and even some really low-key, almost singer-songwriter style type of stuff, which was very different from what people were expecting from Linkin Park. I was here for it though. I was kind of surprised at how good at it they turned out to be. Then came their fourth album, and that's the one this track comes from. That was a concept album called 1,000 Suns. I think 1,000 Suns may have been the most important album that came out in the 2000s. I'm serious. That album is wow. It's a concept album because every song tells a different chapter in a single story. And the overarching premise of this story is basically the looming threat of nuclear war. This song, Waiting for the End, takes place kind of in the middle of the story. So some stuff has happened, some events have taken place, but we're not at the climax just yet. So this song is kind of about just having that despaired resignation that something horrible is happening and there's nothing you can do about it. But that doesn't mean the song is hopeless. There's actually plenty of hope in this song, both in the lyrics and in the music. And speaking of the music, there is a lot more hip-hop influence in here than there was from anything in the previous album. But there's also a much stronger focus on melody and structure and stuff like that than Linkin Park really ever did before. This song was, I believe this was the most successful single from the album. So a lot of you have probably already heard this song, but perhaps not through the lens of a musician and producer. This song also had a resurgence in popularity after Chester Bennington tragically committed suicide, because as you might expect from a song called Waiting for the End, there's a lot of parallels between what the song is talking about and what ultimately ended up happening with Chester. So, especially after his death, this song in particular became one of the ones that just shot right up. And there's a bunch of them. There's like, in hindsight, there's a whole lot of songs in Linkin Park's catalog that hit different now. This is one of them. So, let's get into it. Linkin Park, Waiting for the End. This video is so dope too, it's ridiculous. I don't even know, like, I can't explain any of the visuals here. That's Mike Shinoda. So Mike Shinoda, he's a producer and a multi-instrumentalist and a vocalist and a rapper. So Mike Shinoda is the whole package and is therefore definitely one of the top 5 influences on me as a musician. I also want to point out just for a second how this song began musically. Notice how there's not a lot happening in the bass. That's going to be true for most of this song. There's almost no bass in this song, but there is this piano that's just way up here on this high E, like, well, it's 2 octaves. There's this one and that one together. Then the drums come in and there's this like synth growl for a second on a low E, like down here. But there's no chords really happening right now, at least not until Mike starts singing. When he does start singing, he starts singing on the 3rd, which is right there. Yeah, this is not the end, this is not the beginning, just a voice like a riot rocking every revision. And right out of the gate, there's already a harmony part. We don't even have to wait for any harmony. It's right up here. This is not the end, this is not the beginning. All right, let's keep going. But you listen to the tone and the violent rhythm and know the words sound steady, some empty, but then we say yeah, with fists flying up in the air, like we're holding on to something that's invisible there, cause we're living at the mercy of the pain and the fear, until we get it, forget it, let it all disappear. Okay. Stop. The lyrics. Oh my gosh. Okay. With fists flying up in the air, like we're holding on to something that's invisible there, because we're living at the mercy of the pain and the fear until we get it. Forget it. Let it all disappear. Ooh. Forget it. Let it all disappear. Waiting for the end to come, wishing I had strength to stand. This is not what I had planned. It's out of my control. Okay. Flying at the speed of light. All right. Notice again how, except from Mike's self-harmonization, there are no chords happening in the music. It's just the tonic, or up here. And then with the synth growl down there. Very minimalist stuff going on here, which was very out of character for Linkin Park. Linkin Park was most heavily criticized for being overproduced, meaning there's just way too much happening. Too much instrumentation, too much effects, too much production, too many events in a 3-minute song. Here though, we just have like this old school hip hop beat with just the piano and very minimalist synth pad and like a synth stab every now and then. All on the tonic, all on just E. The only chords are from Mike's voice. Then comes Chester, and when Chester comes in, everything but the piano goes away, and there's like this small synth pad, very, very low in the mix, behind everything. Waiting for the end to come. It's right here. Wishing I had strength to stand. You hear that? This is not what I had planned. That's all that's happening right now. But Chester's voice, his melody, is illustrating what the chords are supposed to sound like. Waiting for the end to come, wishing I had strength to stand. It's kind of ambiguous, like he could be doing like an F sharp minor 7 there. Or he could be doing like an A major add 6. But he sings that line twice, and each time that faint little synth pad in the background is on a different note, indicating that it might actually be either a different chord or a different voicing of the chord between the two times he goes through it. It's all being implied. None of it's obvious. It's just so stripped down. It's really hard to tell what's going on. That beat, though. Musically, all that happened now is the beat. Mike in the background. Okay, now we're starting to hear some more chords. So like Mike is on the and then at first Chester says, I know what it takes to move on. And there, that little synth up here is, I think it's right there. It's on an A wherever it is. And then Chester sings two other notes that form a chord. Move on. And then Mike is on there with the So for a second, we have this, which is an A major. That's the 4 of E major, which is the key signature we're in. The other chord they're alternating with in this section is C sharp. Yeah, C sharp minor. I know how it feels to lie. There, Mike is on the 3rd, and the synth comes way down here. I don't think it's an actual jump, though. It might be another element being added in or another voice to it. Yeah, I think the voicing's just expanding a little bit. And then Chester's there on that 5th. How it feels to lie. Chester building here. No one in all of rock music had a voice like Chester. Chester could do it all, boy. And those lyrics, by the way, I know what it takes to move on. I know how it feels to lie. All I want to do is trade this life for something new, holding on to what I haven't got. And then we got to talk about that melodic leap that Chester just did with his voice. Holding on to what I haven't got. Now that's not a huge jump. It's a little less than an octave. It's a minor 6. I think it's a minor 6. No, it's a major 6. From the B to G sharp. And that G sharp is functioning as the 7th, the major 7th in the 4 chord, which is A. So we got an A major 7. Woo! Major 7 chords are not as common as minor 7 chords. It has a bit more dissonance in it because of this interval right here. This is the major 7 interval, which is an inversion of the minor 2nd, which is, in my opinion, the most dissonant interval in all music. So when you take the inverse of that interval and include it as part of a chord, there's just this tasty crunchiness to it. It's rare to see a major 7th so prominent. I mean, this is the climax of the chorus. This is the closing statement of the song's hook. I just think that's really dope. Mike singing harmony now. And the interplay between the melody and the harmony is happening all over the place. So we got, at first, Mike is beneath Chester. So Chester's up here, sitting in an empty room. Mike, meanwhile, is a 3rd below him, sitting in an empty room. And then Chester goes down, trying to forget the past. But Mike kind of crosses over and now goes above Chester, trying to forget the past. And notice how Mike's motion is not at all parallel to what Chester's doing. So Chester's walking down like this. Overall effect is this. Then Chester switches it up on this next run through that little motif right there. Check this out. He's gonna jump up. This was never meant to lie. Oh, and that interval. Ooh, That interval, though it does not sound like it, Mike just does the same thing he just did and he does it again. So on the last line, he did trying to forget the past. But Chester has jumped like over an octave from down here way up here. This was never meant to last. So now it sounds like this. This was never meant to last. This right here. That is a major second, which not quite as dissonant as the minor second. No. But this right here, let me tell you why this is so tasty. So when you get a major second interval, particularly when the two notes are being sung by human voices, something magical happens with the part of the notes called the overtones or the harmonics. This is going to get a little hard to explain, but let me see if I can do this in less than 20 seconds. You know how when you throw a rock into a pool of water and it makes ripples? Think about what happens if you throw another rock into a section of the water that's right near where you just threw a rock. Well, now you've got two sources of ripples, and the ripples are now going to collide into each other. And when that happens, these colliding ripples make really interesting shapes in the way they interact with each other. Sound does the same thing. You might think of the rock hitting the water as like the source of a note, and the ripples as their overtones. Each note has a series of overtones, and they're particularly rich with the human voice. So you get two voices singing two notes very close to each other, and they each have their own series of overtones, and now they're smashing into each other. Those frequencies interacting with each other have this weird mathematical alignment to them that your brain subconsciously notices and goes, ooh. But yeah, math is a huge part of music. I tell Asher all the time, music is math you can hear. There's no like chord happening. It's just this interval between the two voices. But gosh, those overtones imply so much more information than actually is being presented. It's so cool. I wish it wasn't so. Now Mike's on the melody. Oh. Chords. Oh. You hear those chords and the harmonies? Oh, there is a little bit of bass now too. You hear that? I love the rhythm that Mike chose for this entrance. Oh, I love it so much. So the downbeat, you might remember we talked a lot about the downbeat in the video I did a long time ago on Single Ladies by Beyonce. The downbeat hits like the 3, 4, bam! And then right after that, Mike comes in. Most music you've ever heard in your life is in a time signature called 4/4. When you read it on a piece of music, it looks like a fraction, 4/4. And that actually has a significant meaning to it. It tells us a lot of information about how the rhythm works in any piece of music. So the first 4, the one on top, you might call that the numerator. That's telling us how many beats there are per measure. So 4 beats per measure. The 4 on the bottom, which you might think of as the denominator, that 4 is telling us how much value a beat has, or rather which type of note qualifies as one beat. And since it's a 4, that means it's the quarter note. So a 4/4 time signature tells us 4 beats per measure, and 1 beat equals a quarter note. But there's this interesting thing in rhythm called subdivisions. So you have your quarter note, that's your beat, but you can divide that beat even further or subdivide it, hence subdivision. So we can have eighth notes, which have half the value of a quarter note. So if a quarter note in this tempo is bam, bam, this is the beat, right? Eighth notes would be like, this is not the end, this is not the beginning. Let's divide it one more time. Now we get 16th notes, which sound like this. This is not the end, this is not the beginning. So what's cool about this is that this particular entrance where Mike comes in just off the beat, he's coming in on the second 16th note of the first beat. So at this tempo, those 4 16th notes would go like this. And Mike is coming in on the second one of those. And it's really fast, even at this kind of walking tempo. So the way it all sounds is we build up to this downbeat. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1,
What was that when the fire was that? Woo.
And Mike is now singing in full harmony. I'm pretty sure Chester is in there at the top. So they're both doing this part now. And it's kind of rap, but it's also kind of not rap. I mean, when was the last time you heard rap done where every syllable was a note in a full chord? Like there's just a straight up chord with at least 4 notes in it, 4 voicings. Can you imagine like a choir or like an octet or something trying to rap while harmonizing? Like, who thinks of that? Well, here's Mike Shinoda and Chester Bennington, Linkin Park, doing exactly that, which is just, it's...
All caught up in the eye of the storm, trying to figure out what it's like moving on. And I don't even know what kind of things I said. My mouth kept moving and my mind went dead. So picking up the pieces now, where to begin? The hardest part of ending is starting again.
The hardest part of ending is starting again. The song's called Waiting for the End, but this is not necessarily a song about endings. It could just as easily be a song about beginnings, because really, what's the difference between these two things? What is an ending if not a chance for something else to begin? We're also getting a bit more presence from the low end of things coming in. We have bass coming in a little more. Here, check this out. Listen low here. But just for a second, just for like 3 beats of the first measure there. Now that you hear Chester, that is his voice, but he's not singing that part. That is a production trick called a Vox Chop. It's called that because Vox is like an old Latin term for voice, and then chop meaning we've chopped it up with a computer. We've taken a recording of a human voice and we did surgery to it. Like skipping and glitching a little bit. Vox chops are ubiquitous now, but this song came out practically 11 years ago. Vox chops today sound pretty different.
Because a lot of people will pitch shift them up and they'll crank the format up too, so it sounds like chipmunks and stuff like that.
So yeah, Linkin Park, one of the first people I know of to start doing a Vox chop as like a central feature of a huge single. Okay, now Chester's gonna come back in, but the Vox chop will still continue in the background. Now, everything at once here. Here's the climax. Everything. Check Chester out here. Yo, I forget how great like that whole song is sometimes. It was just really unusual. I mean, 2010 was when this came out. What other music sounded like this in 2010? And so many elements in the drums. Like there's, oh my gosh, there's the actual drum set. Then there's all this crunchy, like metallic sounding stuff mixed in there. And it's all hitting at different 16th notes. So the syncopation is just off the charts. So yeah, there we go. Waiting for the End by Linkin Park. One of their bigger hits, actually, especially after the nu metal era. All right, well, thanks everyone for watching. I have no idea if I'll ever make another episode, and if I do, when it will be. I just have so much going on these days now. But Asher, thanks for holding my feet to the fire for this one. This was fun. I like doing this. And that's it for now. I'll see you when I see you.